Welcome to Spotlight. I'm Rian Keating. Today we're at the Manhattan Theatre Club where the Crier Ford review, Hang On to the Good Times, is about to open. We're delighted to have the opportunity to interview its star, a performer who made her Broadway debut as Eva Perón in Evita. She received accolades for her performances in Sophisticated Ladies and her nightclub act. It's a pleasure to welcome Terri Klausner.
Thank you.
Terri, welcome. I've admired your work for so long. I must say this is a pleasure.
Thanks.
What were your first impressions when you heard Nancy Ford and Gretchen Crier's music?
It was interesting. When I first got involved, at first I was very interested to work with the people that they'd hired, which are Don Scardino, Cass Morgan, and Charlene Woodard. And not just the star, there's 4 stars. And I was thrilled to be working with the caliber of people and Richard Mulvey as director. When they gave us the music, this is the first time I've gotten involved in anything where I did not completely research it. I didn't want to hear the context of the different songs in the shows that they had been in. I wasn't familiar with anything, and I thought this time I'm just going to walk in and, from the beginning, just see what happens. Not familiarize myself with anything so I don't get someone else's impression or whatever. And I think it lent to us taking things out of context and giving songs that people may be familiar with of Nancy's and Gretchen's that are now in a different form and very different. So it kind of gives them new life. It's interesting.
When I called the press agent up, he said it's very much a work in progress and songs are being juggled around. How do you find egos get involved with that?
There are no egos involved at all with this. The 4 of us are, I think our senses of humor are the funniest things. I mean, we just get along great with each other. We've had certain numbers where we'll trade off or someone else will have, but we were pretty much aware that this would happen anyway. And the point of view is to give the best display of this music as you can. And that they're pretty close at giving us material that suits us.
When a lot of the material that's in the show is taken from 2 albums that they put out on RCA during the 70s, and I remember one critic had said that he regarded Crier and Ford as the feminist voice of the 70s. And how do you feel that, given that quote, how the music reflects the 80s? Because it's still very current.
Yes, it is very current, and also it's there's a message attached almost to each song, whether it be something that makes you think twice, or whether it's just very simple. So I think in the simplicity of the music, it can go on for an awful long time. So I like the music. I like the lyrics. I like it a lot.
But do you think because of Reaganomics and the ERA not being so much in the media spotlight as it was, say, in the Carter administration, that the feminist issue is diminished?
I really don't know. I really don't. I mean, I'm not sure. It's interesting. A couple of the phrases that I have some of the phrases of different songs. I mean, I've gotten to the point, and even we've discussed it with Gretchen and Nancy, where you think things are a little dated or they're not applicable. But I think we try to just get around that.
As I know, Gretchen had said in an interview when I'm getting my act together, they used to hold question and answer sessions after the show on Wednesday night. And one man said he had a shotgun, he would blow her head off because he was putting all these ideas into women's heads.
Because she was putting all of the ideas into women's heads? I don't know, I don't get that from the music. Also, I don't know, I guess I'm a difficult person to ask these questions to because I've been lucky enough to never, I'm a hard worker and I struggle for things and I believe in women very strongly, but I believe in people, so I never had to really make a stand on things for myself as a woman, so I can be at ease with all the different colors of what women experience, I think. And a message, I don't know. A message is a message. Whatever somebody wants to take from it, I guess they can. I don't know.
See, that's very interesting because when I'm getting my act together open, there was declared a feminist musical, but when I saw it, it didn't appear that way to me at all. It had to do with being a human being and
Yeah,
actualizing.
yeah. I think that's what a lot of Gretchen's messages anyway is. I always find that really human quality in her music too. Plus, I mean, things like when we did Put in a Package and Sold, I've had friends that have gotten a hold of me and said, well, gosh, I really liked that song when it was in the show before, and like, why are you doing such a parody on it? And I was like, oh gosh, I feel bad. I said, I hope I'm not embarrassing anybody. I mean, Nancy or Gretchen, because we messed around one day and I just came out and said, this is the only way that, because I wasn't familiar with the context that it was in. I said, we're going to do this. We should really, get crazy on it and do, make a parody of it and be funny, because being put in a package and sold and being kind of like that Las Vegas character, it lent to the song. And it's one of the more well-received songs, I think, in the evening because it is very funny and we have a good time doing it. But I know but I come to know that it's completely different than what it was in the context of what is it, Getting My Act Together. I think Gretchen performed that, and in the context of the show, I guess she was battling with a producer or another man. He was like trying to push her to do one thing, and she finally just out of anger came out with the song. So it's completely different. So I wonder how the real fans of Cryer and Ford take the songs that are out of context. I wonder if they missed the way that they were done originally. But I don't know.
Well, I think it's good to be open to new ideas.
Yeah.
Because you have a wonderful song called You Can Never Know My Mind, which I think is one of Gretchen's better writings. And it's performed very differently on their recording.
Also, Charlene had that originally, and I wound up getting it. And it's a great song. I really enjoy singing that.
How do you find Gretchen's outlook on relationships? Because certainly she grew up in the 50s when women were pressured to get married and have a family, whereas you're really a product of the 70s.
It's interesting, through all this, we sat around a number of times at lunch, over a beer, and we'd all have like girl talk, talking about what had gone on, in Gretchen's life or my own life. And we can talk about lovers and husbands and different men or women that have had impressions on us through our life, or different tough situations in the business and fighting and struggling and trying to find exactly who you are as in yourself. And Gretchen is a very intuitive woman and with a great sense of humor. I think that's what is very attracting to her. Which I love women that have, or anyone that has a great sense of humor. I believe you have to have humor to get anywhere in this world. So we've had wonderful conversations and very emotional times. And her approach to life is strong and sensitive, but with that humor.
Well, it certainly comes through in her music. So you're very fortunate to have the opportunity to perform it. You had grown up in New Jersey. How did you get interested in dancing? Because I know you started around 5 years old.
Yeah, I think it was because my legs were so strange looking. I think my mother and father went like, man, she's bow-legged. Something's better.
Well, they went vertical.
Right. But apparently, my mother told me the story that I had a plastic inner tube that I would deflate and not let it be blown up and wear it around my waist when I was about 3 or 4 years old. And I kept thinking I got some concept of being a ballerina. So they decided to let me go to dancing school. Excuse me, when I was 5. And I did that until I was 17. So I started out as a dancer. My love for ballet and dancing was really the first thing of performing that I'd been involved in. I also played the piano. And later, it was only in high school. And then in college, where I started just singing. I was, because I would be involved in musicals, that was the next step to go to. And all of a sudden, someone said, come here. Who's singing in the background there? Come here, come sing the song. And I wound up completely changing the course of what I was involved in and became a singer. I always had singing and music in my family since I was a child. We were always very, we were given any opportunity to have music in our lives from our parents and grandparents. And I always sang. I always sang with my mother. It was just something that was just very natural. But when I really started to be hired to sing, I started studying and taking lessons. That was about 6 years ago. right when I first came and got a chorus line.
Now, you had first auditioned for a chorus line here in New York, and then you were...
They told me my dancing wasn't good enough.
Right after 12 years.
You're right, and I was like, ooh, boy, I have time to...
Then you were gone to Colorado to audition for it. Do you feel that for performers to go out of town to go to an audition for a national company, it's a lot easier to get hired?
At the time, I really didn't know what I was doing. All I knew that when I found out I didn't make it the first time, that I started taking like 2 or 3 dance classes a day. Because I was told your stage presence and your singing is outstanding, but you need to get your dancing better. So we want to see you again. And I thought, great, I'm so lucky, that I'm the first audition, and I was told that, And I had been in Colorado. My friends heard about my audition, and this was about 2 months later, and they knew that Chorus Line was coming into Denver and holding auditions, and they begged me. They said, Terri, why don't you come out and teach us the combination, and you can audition again, and we can get a chance to see us, because we hadn't seen each other in 2 months. So I said, good idea. So I wound up going out there, and for me, Joe Nelson was the casting agent at that time for Chorus Line. He was quite surprised. He said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm here on business and pleasure, and I figured I'd come in and audition again. And I got the job. So for me, it was a fluke situation that but very lucky that I was seen by the same person again in a strange atmosphere. And I think it made me stick out in his mind a little more. And also I had gotten better. So I think it all came together. I was very lucky. But in a strange way, I would say for anybody to do anything that they could if they want a job. I mean, not being ridiculously aggressive, but most performers know that when they're right for something. And you should always be prepared so that if you are called on to do it, that you're ready.
You had played Bibi with the original cast of the Gala when A Chorus Line became
Right.
the longest-running Broadway musical. How did you find that experience?
Oh, it was amazing. Well, first of all, all of us couldn't believe that Michael Bennett was bringing everybody together again. And we all met in the Schubert Theater, and he started out explaining to everyone. I mean, people, it's such a small world, everybody somehow knew each other. And I guess there was about 400 of us. And he got everyone in the theater and said, right, we're going to divide this into companies. And so we'll have the original company, then we'll do the first national tour, then we'll do the international tour, then we'll do the Los Angeles company, then we'll do this. So there were like about 8 different Chorus Line companies, or even, maybe even 12, there were so many people. So he brought the original company out on stage. Well, everybody at this point was, the energy in the room was outstanding. And people were screaming and applauding, they just were going crazy. And finally he got out on the stage and said, and Nancy Lane, who is our BB, is shooting a television show in Los Angeles and cannot be here. So the role usually played by Nancy Lane as BB will be played by Terri Klausner. Well, I thought, I sat there in this room, I had no idea that they wanted me to do that, and I thought I'd won the Academy Award. I just went, oh my God, jumped up on the stage, and I know Tommy Walsh and Bjork and Kelly Bishop and a couple of other people, and I was just so proud that I had had the opportunity to perform with them, and it was unbelievable because when we rehearsed, we would rehearse in that company, and the stories and the emotions that they were going through, because it had been 10 years since they all had been telling their story, was overwhelming. I just sat around quietly and listened to them quite often, and we got into points where, Donna McKechnie was outstanding in rehearsal, and Priscilla Lopez could hardly even sing the song. We would get to it every day, and everybody would just start crying. It was just emotional and lovely and happy and exhilarating. And yet I'm sure that there were a lot of tense feelings for certain people and hard feelings because of what happens to people, throughout the years, or whether they stayed with something long enough or they left it or were fired or whatever. But it was unbelievable. And when we performed in the afternoon and the evening, there were literally dancers in the aisles of every level of the theater, and to look at that and feel the energy of the audience, it was one of the most exciting moments I've ever known in my life.
Well, I think anybody who was there will always remember. It was just phenomenal.
It was.
Why do you think A Chorus Line has been so successful?
Because it's a universal story. It's the story of trying and either winning or losing. And it's down to earth. It showed a personal side of the gypsy or the person in the business, what they think and what it took to get where they are. And I think that in any business, people go through that. In the business world, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, the struggle to achieve something is tough. And I think the audience gets it, the dancing and the music and the comedy, I think the audience just really always gets a chance to identify.
In terms of auditions, how realistic do you find it?
I was very lucky because the first 3 auditions I ever went through, or the first 4, gave me my first 3 Broadway shows. The Chorus Line, I didn't make it the first time, made it the second time. The next thing, only other thing I auditioned for after that was Evita. I had 3-4 callbacks for that, and I got that. After that, it was Sophisticated Ladies. So I was very lucky for the first 5 years of my career. Then all of a sudden, after Sophisticated Ladies ended, it was the real world. I had to go out and continue to audition for different things and not get them or not do very well in an audition. And it's tough. And sometimes people treat you really lousy. And other times they treat you like a real person, So.
Well, one thing you had said in an interview when you didn't think you had gotten the Evita job was that you felt that when they said thank you, you had lost your right arm.
Gosh, yeah. I thought, because when I realized that they were interested in me for the lead, I thought, oh my God, I didn't know what to think. I went out and bought every book I could on Eva Peron and memorized the British album. I was like, because I thought I was going to get the part of the mistress. I just assumed that I would try for that song. No. And when they just said thank you, at the end of it, it was a snowy, horrible day in New York City, and I had been called back 3 times that day. And to be cut off in the middle of a song, too, or at the beginning of a song is a very tough thing. And I think it was Rainbow High. I don't really think I need the reasons why I won't succeed. I haven't started. Let's get this show on the road. Let's make it obvious. Verona's off and rolling. Thank you. Okay. And I thought, oh.
As a performer, rejection is something that's probably something you face every day. How are you able to maintain a decent level of self-esteem?
I have begun to achieve it more within the past 2 years. I think when you grow up a little bit, and if you go through some, personal things in your life, you realize you start being able to balance what is really important to you and what isn't. And my work is very important to me, and my discipline towards it is very important to me. However, I won't tolerate not being treated like a fine human being, because that's the way I treat people. So I've gotten to a point where people know my work, and I've just begun really to experience and try different things and let go of things and dive into things. So I'll always do a good job, as many performers will always do. But to maintain my pride and integrity, that's the only thing you have, really, in your talent. So you have to hold on to that and make sure it's very strong and right here, and you don't give too much of it away, because you'll wind up not having anything for yourself. So I think you just have to know what's important to you, and then try and deal, and not take rejection so heavily. There's always something else to do. And I've been lucky because I've tried to maintain things for myself, like doing my club act to keep me going if I wasn't working, which has been a great opportunity too.
Absolutely. One thing that I'm sure most trivia buffs know, you were the first person to sing Evita in this country. And this was without a run-through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, in fact, we did have one run-through. I had not had a rehearsal with Mandy Patinkin or Bob Gunty. And the schedule was really grueling. And Patty LuPone had lost her voice. And it was a benefit performance, 2 benefit performances. And Hal Prince just said, "You're going on." And I lost my voice out of sheer fear. I thought, oh my God, he's got to be kidding me. And I don't know how outstanding those performances were. I think I was thrilled that I remembered the words. And but it was very exciting.
Those who were in the know felt that you did perform on the matinees, and on the matinees the role was better sung and better danced. How were you able to make your performance different from Patty Oswalt's?
I think Patty has more experience as an actress. She had done more straight things. I think that's why Hal Prince went with her, because that was what he needed. My strength as a singer and a dancer was stronger because that's where I came from. It was nice of him to. We were told specific things that he wanted out of qualities that he wanted in the character, but my character was more vulnerable, I think, than Patty's was, and I was glad that I was able to play it that way and wasn't told you have to do it like this or this is exactly what we want. And it took me a long time to get a real grip on it because only doing 2 shows a week, I would get onto a Saturday matinee and think, God, what did I do Wednesday that really worked and I want to try that again. Then you fall into the trap of trying to make something happen again or whatever. So it took me about 6 months and to really get a grasp of the role. And Bob Gunton was also so supportive. And he really taught me a lot of things about performing just by working with him. So I think when I finally grabbed a hold of it, it was I was giving a better performance.
How did you find the vocal challenges of the role? Because you also appeared in the chorus at night.
I loved it. Sometimes I would do. There were a few times where I did the show 2 times in a row, and it was tough because you never know on a given day how emotional you're going to be. And the toughest thing as a singer is to really get emotional because Evita could scream, she could cry, she could laugh, and that takes a lot of wear and tear on the vocal cords because they swell up and do whatever with your emotions. And some days I would just sing the thing, and at the end of the show I'd be like, oh my gosh, what did I do, Other days I would sing it and never feel any wear or anything like that. But the amount of songs and the range of the music was, what a role. I don't know when there'll be another one like that.
Well, it's certainly a wonderful thing to make a New York debut.
Yeah.
You had also been in Sophisticated Ladies, which you had taken out of town like a And how would you describe taking a musical out of town? I'm sure there are a lot of pressures, especially with that show.
Yeah, and again, I was in a lucky situation because I was surrounded by an outstanding cast and wonderful music. I mean, how could you go wrong with Duke Ellington? However, we did in Philadelphia and D.C. The show was horrendous. I don't know. Gregory Hines and I used to sit back and think, oh my God, we're never going to, open in New York. And the word of mouth on it was really tough. And I don't know, when you have combinations of either too much creativity and talent, I guess you have problems. If you don't have enough, you have problems. So you just have to be smart. And we fought hard for that show and cut out the things that weren't working and kept it a review and just let everybody do their thing. And I think that's what was the success of it also.
How were you able to, because certainly when I was out of town, the word here in New York was that it was
really
not good. And how much influence do you think critics should be allowed to have, John Simon notwithstanding?
It's interesting. I was just talking about critics to friends yesterday, too. I don't think they should have too much power. People tend to forget. I mean, one review can end people's jobs. It makes people lose an awful lot of money. I think that it's a tough thing. If I walked into, how much power do I have if I walk into a law office and somebody doesn't do a job right? Can I get them fired? That's just not the way things work. This is a lifestyle and a livelihood called show business, and I would like to see the critics have more of an educational point of view to say, well, this, in my opinion, didn't necessarily work because it's not good theater or it's not whatever. However, the point of view, I mean, there are just so many ways you can say things without absolutely demolishing people and performances and shows. So I get a little annoyed with how they place things. And also, it's a tough time on Broadway. Our theaters are dark. We don't have every show that's come out has been closing. It's scary. And our writers, and there's probably a whole mountain full of writers somewhere that aren't getting their material exposed yet. But I hope people just kind of relax a little bit. I mean, because I've seen a lot of shows that certainly the public would have enjoyed, but because the critic has something to say, they'll never see it.
Well, it's unfortunate they have that power. As you've said, you've been able to find refuge in your nightclub act, and you're certainly known for a diversity of material.
Good. It's a lovely compliment.
So how do you go about putting together, because I know you sing Motown and as well as From This Moment On and Pretty Women, which is a pretty wide scope.
Yeah. When I first started doing the club act, my friends who directed me asked me, well, Terry, who do you want to appeal to? Recording, TV, Broadway, what? And I said, yes, all of those things. That's what I want to do. And they were like, no, you can't do that. You have to decide which one you want to do. And I thought, well, let's give a little bit of everything. And that's what we try to do. I mean, my background was a lot of the Motown and more of a rock, pop type of, theatrically, my voice is, I've been given the gift of being able to sing on Broadway, and even with Evita to even, possibly cross over to a field of, more opera or whatever, the stamina that is required. And I also love, comic things, and I'm out there to have a good time. So I do things that make me have a really good time, because then I think everybody enjoys it with me.
You've also taken your act to London, and would you describe the difference between London audiences and New York audiences? Well,
I was only there briefly, but I was more affiliated in London with Sophisticated Ladies' work. I was in Monte Carlo. I did my act there and headlined the Grand Prix this summer.
And you did it in front of the royal family?
Yeah, and that was interesting.
They don't have a rule you're not supposed to look at them.
Yes, you're not supposed to. And I looked right at them. No, I couldn't tell the spotlight was so... They were dead center, but they were saying, you're not to look at the royal family. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? Sing like this all night long, with my head not facing front? So I didn't mean to look at them, and you really couldn't find them anyway. You can't see in the audience too much. But that was an interesting experience, because I did a real flashy version of the club act. I had 4 dancers and brought 3 musicians with me. We had another 12 there, and we did a big dance, more of like a Vegas kind of show. And I couldn't have any patter, because most of the people spoke French. So if I started talking, they wouldn't know what I was saying. So we tried to keep the songs very universal. So I would do a lot of the Broadway things, and I did Imagine, some Beatles tunes, and the Motown medley, and 40 songs. So it became, that was all very identifiable. But I did the headline at the Sporting Club, which is a huge club, for the first night, and then performed in the cabaret for 3 weeks afterwards. And the cabaret was much smaller, so I think people were expecting a more intimate evening, and out came this, wild redhead with 4 dancers, and just my dancers were doing flips and kicks all over the place. The audience was a little stunned, but they seemed to really enjoy it.
Well, that's terrific. Our time is up. I've so enjoyed chatting with
Thank you. You too.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, me too.
This is Rian Keating, and we're talking to Terri Klausner at the Manhattan Theater Club at City Center. I'd suggest you see her and hang on to the good times, the Cryer Ford review. It's running through February 24th. If you have any comments or suggestions for myself, or if you would like to receive our program guide, you can write to me in care of Pierrot Productions, 640 10th Avenue, New York, New York 10036. Spotlight airs Tuesday evenings at 8:30 on Channel D, Wednesday mornings at 1 a.m. on Channel C, and again Saturday mornings at 11:30 on Channel C. Until next week, this is Rian Keating for Spotlight. Have a good week.
All right, thanks.